All right, today, Friday, May 5th, is all about 4Xing your opportunities with open houses. What does that actually mean? What does it mean to 4X your opportunity? It means taking one lead generation source like open houses and leveraging that one lead generation source to actually create 4 times the amount of opportunity from this one. And I just want to introduce myself. My name is Joey. I'm the managing director of sales and growth over at Real Estate Experts. I've been selling real estate since 2012, and I've hosted more open houses than I care to admit, and done all of the wrong things, like all of us have done, I'm sure. And I am very, very excited to show you sort of what a system, a model, and the tools look like to really knock open houses out of the park. And then, of course, Brett Jennings here. Brett, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Joey. Yeah, I've been started. It's interesting, kind of, they say history doesn't repeat itself, but it sometimes rhymes. I'm kind of feeling like a new agent in the business again, and I actually got my license 15 years ago in 2008. Literally got my license and hung it at Keller Williams, and the next day Bear Stearns collapsed. And just this last week, the bank I bank with, First Republic Bank, collapsed. So, and we have the same kind of situation in the market where the market's slow and agents are having a hard time, and there's agents leaving the business. But I'm actually excited because when I look back on my career, having been a solo agent and then having gone on to build a team, and then now launch the Team Ridge model at Real Estate Experts, it's been an awesome ride. And what I can say is those agents that are committed to growth and learning, which all of you are on the call, are one step ahead, and are demonstrating what it takes to have staying power by being committed to learning and figuring out like what is the next thing and how do I add value, because those are the key differentiators that have helped us basically go from an agent that was doing, I did 10 million my first year in the business, and then I eventually grew a team that did 100 million, and now Real Estate Experts. I feel humbled because it's really the agents that have helped us do this, get over $1 billion in sales in 1 year. So you're going to learn some of the best from not me, but at the collective genius that we've cultivated by bringing together top agents that have a little bit different mindset than what you might find in the marketplace, where most top agents, or a lot of top agents in the past, have kind of kept their cards close to the vest. But we have created an opportunity, and it's definitely demonstrated here today in how sharing ideas actually creates more opportunity for everybody. So let's dive into that, Joey, because you talked about open houses, and open houses are just one core pillar of the 4 that we work with. Most agents we talk to that are been kind of solo and on their own, that have accomplished some good things, typically do it through their sphere of influence and open houses. And doing that, they might get to 7 to 10 transactions a year. But if you just really go deep with open houses, you can take your business to new heights. And that's what we're going to talk about today in the 4 core lead sources, specifically open houses.
I've said this a million times, but it's the only lead generation source that I know of where you're standing in a room and somebody walks through the door, and what they basically said by walking through the door is, hey, I'm interested and I have this much money to spend. And if you can help me, I might like to spend it here. Potentially, maybe not, but we should talk. That's like the only lead generation source on the planet that I'm aware that exists. And so I want to go through what the purpose of today is. I want to set the foundational understanding of what we want you to get out of today. And when we talk about 4Xing your opportunities, what we really mean is we want to help you create and implement strategies that are proven to maximize the potential of your open house as one of your lead sources. We want to systematize your lead capture, the lead promotion, and appointment generation, and of course, the last piece, which is the follow-up.
Training right now for some agents.
Convert open houses
about
into immediate and long-term sustained business. Because open houses are fantastic for the immediate, and they're amazing for the long-term as well. We're super excited to go through this with you. Brett, you want to talk a little bit about this picture?
Yeah. So, as I want to invite you, open houses is something that if you're in the business for any period of time, right, you know how to do an open house. At least that's what we all think. And this picture, I think, is a good thing, is that the mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. And as you think about and approach what we're going to share today, one of the principles one of my mentors shared with me that I thought was so valuable is there's 4 words that you never want to say, because when they do, it closes down opportunity and it closes down growth. And those 4 words are, I already know that. As soon as you say that, you're not open to taking in something new. So keep an open mind. And we're going to talk about, with that, let's talk about how to 4X your opportunity, because ultimately it starts with one thing. And it's actually not even a thing that you're going to do, but it's more what you're thinking. And one of my mentors is Tony Robbins. I had the privilege and opportunity working with him and for him for 2 years when I came out of college. But it's this idea that success is 80% mindset and 20% what you do. In fact, I might even say it's as much as 90% mindset. So the first thing we want to do, right, is get our mindset right. What is the perspective or view on the world we should have about what is an open house and how I can maximize the opportunity from it? And Joey, I think that leads into what you were going to talk about here next.
Totally. Our mindset for open houses is pretty simple. And the way we teach this is to focus on 2 things. Our job is to demonstrate expertise. When someone walks through the front door of our open house, we need to be a lighthouse for that person. We need to be able to demonstrate that we are the person that they can trust to guide them through this process. And the second piece of this is we have to be able to add value. And sometimes adding value looks different for everybody. Sometimes it's who you're talking to in that exact moment. Sometimes it's helping them down the road. But we need to make sure that we aren't the agent that just opens the front door to an open house and then lets people come through. We need to be better. How many of you have been to an open house? Raise your hand or put it in the chat, where you walked into the open house, had no idea who the agent was who was hosting, because they were sitting on the couch or at the dining room table, texting on their phone, laptop open, some form or fashion of that. Raise your hand if you've ever attended one of those. Now, how many of you, there might be a few less ones here. How many of you have been that agent at the open house, sitting on your phone on the couch? Yeah, nobody raised their hand. Nobody on this call, I can promise.
Be honest.
I've done it. I've absolutely done it. You're at an open house for 4 hours. It's slow. You end up like the 3rd hour in, you're sitting on the couch like, when will someone come in? And then finally a human arrives. Oh, goodness gracious. We've all been there.
But I was going to say, I think, Joey, the principle there, right, is that you want to show up like no other. Because guess what? When those buyers come through an open house, they're going to 3 or 4 other open houses that day. And you want to show up better and different than anyone else so that you're memorable and you can capture the business.
Who here's actually gone to Target ever?
Participation, yeah.
Fantastic. What about Nordstrom? Anybody here ever went and shopped at Nordstrom? Can we agree that there's a significant difference in the experience that you as a human being, as a shopper, have between going to Target and going to Nordstrom? I want to go through this with you because I think this is an important distinction. When you think of this, I want you to think of Target as obviously the norm. Target's sort of the normal experience that buyers and sellers have when they show up at an open house, and we want to be the Nordstrom. So what does Target do? They don't expect their employees to have any product expertise. There's no requirement to understand market buying trends. Doesn't matter to the employee at Target why you're here to buy a t-shirt or Valentine's Day cards or back to school. There's no selling happening at Target. It's all showing. No one's asking you, can I get you something else? Do you need anything more? Or, hey, this might be a better option for you. And the customer service is truly dependent on the employee's desire to serve for that day. They're having a bad day, they can make a different choice. They don't have to serve you as a customer. And the last piece about Target is that there's really not any follow-up. There's 0 one-to-one follow-up with valued shoppers. So if I go there and spend $2,000 on, who knows, everything. I came there for one thing and I ended up buying 50 things. That's how Target goes. If you end up being that person who spends a ton of money, you're no more valuable to Target than the person who comes in and buys that one thing. By the way, that is, if you can go to Target and buy one thing, you have more willpower than anybody else I know on the planet. Congratulations. But then let's talk about the difference in Nordstrom. Nordstrom actually requires their employees to understand the latest fashion trends. They require something called suggestive selling. So when you say, hey, I'd like to see this shoe in the shoe department, that employee is told, I have to bring them more. I have to bring 4 pairs for every requested shoe that we're selling. And then At the end of every day, those employees at Nordstrom are required to write 2 thank you letters at the end of the day for the people that they've serviced. And here's the deal, the sales standards are crazy. If you're a shoe salesman at Nordstrom and you were caught bringing less than 4 pairs of shoes, the first time is a warning, the second time's a write-up, and the third time you're fired. There's a demonstrative difference between the customer service experience at Target versus Nordstrom. Which one, as a consumer, as a buyer or a seller, which one do you feel more protected and safe by? The answer is probably Nordstrom, I hope. I'm assuming. Brett, you want to add anything?
No, I mean, I think that if any of you guys have been to Nordstrom, the key difference there, them and other retailers, a lot of retailers, you walk in, you'll get the question that you always get. Can I help you? And we usually respond by saying, what? What's the number? Type it in the chat. What's the number one thing that people say when you ask, or when you're asked, can I help you? No, I'm just looking. Yeah, I'm okay, thanks. Right? So, but at Nordstrom, they won't take that, right, as an answer. If you go through the store and you're in the men's department and you take a look at a nice new shirt, and that salesperson sees you walking around, he might go over to the men's accessories section and grab a couple ties and say, hey, I just noticed you were looking at that shirt. I just thought I might suggest there's a couple nice ties that might go along well with that. Or if you're in the dressing room, they'll ask you, can I get you a pair of slacks to go with that shirt? So it's that suggestive selling that I think is a key differentiator. And it comes from, right, that sincere desire to serve and to add value. And so it really isn't that hard, as you'll see when we go through the open house formula here, to show up in that way. And what it will do is it makes you show up like no other and start earning these opportunities.
Absolutely. So let's talk about these opportunities. Let's talk about the 3 areas to maximize that 4x return in your open houses. And look, some of this may feel like pretty basic information, but we're going to go pretty deep into each of these so that you understand what the systems look like. So we've got number 1, which is preparation. That's everything that happens before the open house. Number 2 is actually the hosting of the open house. And number 3 is what you do afterwards and how you communicate the follow-up. Pretty simple, right? It's the same 3 things that we probably all do, but we want to elevate that to the next level. And so I have a question for you, which is typically I want you to open the chat and I want you to write in the chat, how much time do you allocate for your open houses? Typically.
Say you're going to do an open house from 1 to 4. How much time do you allocate? Go ahead and type it in the chat. Let's hear from some of you.
Yeah, 4.5 hours, 5, 2 hours, 6 hours for Sunita, 4 hours a week, 12 to 5 if you're hosting 1 to 4. Makes sense. It's pretty normal for us. 6, yeah, absolutely. That's pretty much the average, wouldn't you say? Don says 3 days. 3 days for open house.
But if you do what's average, you get average results. And the reality is, it doesn't take that much more time invested to get 4x the number of results. And so, Joey, you want to talk about like what does kind of the ideal open house day look like?
Yeah, so I tried to make this as simple as I possibly could in an image. So if you take a look at this, we're assuming the house is an open house is 1 to 4. We want our agents out lead generating from 11 to 1 in the neighborhood. We know that if we can get door knocking going, 20 houses to the left, 20 houses to the right, 40 homes across or more, the amount of opportunity we can generate to attend the open house from neighbors who are your potential sellers, by the way, is going to be significantly greater than if we put our signs out, show up 20 minutes before the open house, turn the lights on, and hope for the best. And then we allow ourselves that 1 to 4 time, that traditional 1 to 4 open house time. But the piece of the puzzle that I think is, there's 2 pieces to this puzzle that are pretty unique. The first is we allot an hour of time for follow-up directly after the open house. So whether it be in the open house or sitting in your car in the driveway, we want to make sure that we are doing our hot lead follow-up directly after the open house, because the odds of them forgetting you exist from seeing 6 open houses are significantly higher if we don't create that level of communication and connection as fast as possible. And then here's another little secret sauce that we're going to go through, which is what happens in the evening of your open houses. We want you open and available for tours or appointments for people who didn't like the house. Brett, what percentage of people actually buy the house that they tour for an open house?
Less than 10%.
Great. So if you have 10 buyers who walk through the front door, odds are you've got one buyer that's significantly interested in purchasing that property and 9 who decided this wasn't a good opportunity. But remember, they raised their hand and said, I'm interested in this house. I have this much money in this neighborhood. We can help. Who else can help better than us? Do you want to add anything, Brett?
No, I think the key takeaway here is if you've been previously thinking, again, it comes back to mindset, that, if I'm doing an open house from 1 to 4, 12 to 5 is my schedule. I got to get cleaned up, got to get out there, put my signs out for a half hour before, pull them up, afterward. But that's not the way to maximize your open house opportunity. This is what the ideal calendar looks like. And we'll talk about what goes into the time, not just putting in the hours. But we're all guilty, right, of half-assing an open house. And so we don't want to do that anymore. And if you choose to make a positive difference in your business and do it differently, there's huge opportunity ahead.
So let's talk about number 1. Let's talk about preparation. So it is imperative that each open house gets a level of understanding that makes you, the agent, the micro market expert. I'm not talking about just the zip code. I'm not even talking about the neighborhood. I'm talking about the market on the street that they're on. So here's sort of the 7 things that we want you as an agent to actually partake in to elevate the level of the open house. The first is you got to review the damn disclosures. Like, you got to know what the heck you're getting yourself into. Those disclosures are going to give you more nuggets of wisdom about how to and who to sell that house to than anything else, because somebody took the time to put the work in to make sure that those are important for who is ever interested in buying. And you having the understanding of those before somebody says I'm interested allows you to provide that extra amount of value. But you want to talk about comps for a sec, Brett?
Yeah, the second thing is, this is where I see a lot of agents come unprepared, especially if you're hosting someone else's open house. And if we come back to the principle of suggestive selling that we talk about, that Nordstrom does so well, that causes their shoe salespeople to outperform everybody in the industry and has their consumers and customers wanting to go back to Nordstrom from such a great experience. Think about additional properties, right? In the example with Nordstrom, where consumer comes in and requests 1 pair of shoes, the salesperson goes back in the back and brings out 4. So question would be, what are the 3 most likely desirable alternative opportunities that you could present to a prospective buyer who walks through that open house that might be, in the market for that type of house, knowing that we said, look, 90% of buyers who walk through that front door, it's not going to be the right house for them. So second thing is knowing the market with the relevant comps, obviously, so you understand market values in case you do have a buyer who wants to make an offer on that property and they're going to ask you, hey, what do you think? Where's pricing in this? And you want to be able to understand that. But third is understand who the players are in the local neighborhood. And this is important, right? Because you want to call whoever the top listing agent is in the area and ask them, hey, do you have any coming soon properties coming up? I may have a buyer that might be in the market. I just want to know what you might have coming down the pike. Again, it makes you look like the expert because, for example, I'm in Willow Glen. I know Valerie Main's a top agent there. I'm going to be hosting an open house next weekend. I'm going to find out what inventory she's got coming up so that I can demonstrate that expertise and added value, right, to stand out like no other.
It's also a leverage point for you, right, Brett? The information is power. And so if someone's coming to your open house and they're not interested in what you have to offer that moment, they might be interested, most people are interested in the thing they haven't seen yet, the thing that's exciting, that's new. And the other side of this is every neighborhood every neighborhood sale creates seller expectation. The person who owns that house or the neighbors who are watching have seen the last 5 houses sell, and they've seen them be priced under market and sell over or priced at market and sell right at. They've seen them be priced over market and undersell. They've seen what has been happening in the neighborhood that they live in. And so we know that sellers' expectations are that they're going to get the same thing that other people got. And so when you get a buyer that's actually interested in purchasing the property, if you understand the seller's expectations in the neighborhood that you are selling the property in, you can advise the buyer at a higher level to get them the opportunity to win, versus someone coming in and saying, hey, I want to lowball this and see what happens. All right, I want to offer 1% above the asking price. You can say, hey, we've got the last 5 houses that sold all about 5% above asking. I'm pretty sure the seller is going to be seeking something very similar. So I want to make sure that when we make our offer, we're competitive with what the seller's expectations are. Is that something you'd be comfortable with? Now, there's somebody who does a really good job at this. I want to talk about, there's a lot of people who do a really good job about this, but when we go into promotion, I'll introduce somebody who's just rock solid at it. Now, there's the fourth thing, which is identifying the ideal buyer avatar. What that really means is, who's going to buy this damn house? Like, who is this house for? If you're selling a 1-bedroom condo, when the family walks in with 2 kids, odds are it's going to be for them. So odds are I can spend a little bit less time engaging with that buyer than the person who walks in who's got their dog with them and is looking for a single person looking for the dog or with their dog. Or if I'm in a 5-bedroom house, odds are it's going to go to somebody who needs 5 bedrooms. And so I want to make sure I know who I'm looking for when they walk through the front door, so that I can make sure that I'm not wasting time on looky-loos or people who don't really care. They're just coming to see the finishes. Does that all make sense so far? Okay. Brett, talk about door knocking.
Yeah. So, obviously you can just mail, right? Your just listed postcards to the open house. When we talk about marketing, you can do your Facebook posts. So these are all, let's assume that you're going to do all of those things. But one missed opportunity is doing some door knocking. Door knocking, the 20 doors on either side and the 40 across the street, is a great formula and way to get additional people coming to the open house. Because ultimately, if you think about it, the mailers, yes, they're nice, but there's nothing better than getting face-to-face with a particular neighbor and letting them know, hey, your neighbors, Mary and Sue, around the corner, asked us to invite you to their home because it's being held open. We're putting it up for sale and wanted to get your feedback. So please come by. When we do them, we're offering refreshments. I've got a door knocker on my desk right here this is a property that I'm going to be door knocking tonight for Willow Glen. We're going to do a wine and cheese party for the neighbors. So, but that level of communication, right, is super, super effective, because conversion, meaning turning a lead, an address, a person into a potential client down the road, conversion only happens in conversation. Doesn't happen from a mailer. I got to get voice to voice or face to face with that person. In fact, we got one of our partners on the line here, Don Mitchell. I know, you're someone who's been in the business a long time, right, Don?
Yes.
Don, are you there?
I am.
Yeah.
Here I am. Hey, Brett.
Hey, you've been in the business a while. When did you get your license and how long you been at the game?
Wish I gotta get renewed before the month end. Yeah. So I've been in the business just under 30 years.
Amazing. And, we've started talking about this kind of mega open house activity and doing the things that are different and the extra things, right, to generate the additional opportunities. And I know you saw another agent in our group like doing this, and you were like, you know what, I'm going to do it. So tell us what you did and tell us what additional results you got from this last activity.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. So, I put 3 to 4 days in there, and we what we call is a mega open house. And so you have to be able to prep for that. And so we did a twilight type of event. I'm not going to tell you what we did, and just in case I get in trouble. But anyhow, we have fun. We had a good time. And the next day we did a coffee bar. And so our open house turned into more of a social bar, if you want to call it. But to get there, we went door knocking, and myself and Gloria, who's on our team, we went and introduced ourselves to the neighbors, and we let them know that we are having these events that are just for you. So come on through, and we get to know each other. But more importantly, those that answered the door, they were very curious as to what we were doing. And number two, it allowed us to find out how long they've been in the neighborhood and more about the neighborhood itself, so that we are more knowledgeable to the buyers that are coming through.
Awesome. And Don, tell us, because what result you got ultimately, right? Because we don't do this just to get the extra steps in for a workout. We're going walking the neighborhood, door knocking. What did that translate into for you as far as additional opportunities that wouldn't have come, right, without that extra effort on the promotion?
Oh yeah, no. So we had we passed out 175 invites. And because of time constraints, I think we knocked on at least 75 doors, and so that was it. So with that, the conversations that we had, attendance from neighbors was about 12 neighbors that came through. And on Friday, I didn't really think we were going to have that many, but on Friday alone, there were at least 6 neighbors that came through from a 5 to 7 event, and but we ended up with over 30 or 30 or so groups that evening in that 2 hours.
What was the opportunity that came out of this, Don?
Well, the opportunity came out as I got another listing that we're launching in a couple of weeks. We got 3 or 4 buyers that we're working with. And we also are working with a potential sell by combo opportunity. So yeah, and people that are interested in what you are doing. Well, let me just say this. The results were amazing. However, we were on stage. Neighbors came to see us to see how we reacted and how we performed and how we spoke to other people within the open house. And because of that is how we got the listing. So you never know when Joey says sitting on the couch or whatever and on your phone, you never know what their mission is when they come to the open house, and why it's important to invite sellers, because that's who you want to impress. So coming out, showing up different than anyone else, I think is key.
Awesome.
Don, you're talking about something that, for those of you who don't know, I was an actor for years. I've probably been to 40,000 auditions, and I did not get 39,900 of them. Every open house is an audition for future sellers and buyers. It's an audition that people are, you may not know it or not, but they're making a split decision on you the minute they walk through the door on whether or not you're the type of they want to be in business with. And what Don did is he auditioned for 3 days. He had an audition and a callback and another callback, and then then he had the performance of a lifetime at the open house. And I can't think of a better way for a seller or buyer to understand how it's going to be like working with me than actually showing up for them in a way that others are unwilling to do it. Yeah. It's an unbelievable gift that you just gave to all those people.
One of the most powerful principles in sales or in marketing is, and this is what one of my coaches and mentors shared with me, is that you want to give people the experience of what it's like to work with you before they actually work with you. And doing a stellar kick-ass open house, there's like Joey said, there's no better way, because you create these opportunities like we're doing, the Twilight open house with some wine and cheese. The next day we're doing some snacks on Saturday prior to the public open house from 12 to 1. But 2 things: generosity, going out, knocking, and inviting people to a free opportunity to connect with their neighbors and provide something, again, providing value in the context of place to collaborate and get some refreshments is adding value, and generosity invokes reciprocity. So that's the principles that come out both from the door knocking and the circle prospecting we have on here, because let's say you're not a knocker, okay? That's not your thing, or you want to reach more people. You can circle prospect. Mojo is a great system. You want to be very careful, make sure you scrub your calling list for the DNC, but Mojo is a great system that you can use. You simply drop a pin in the map and a circle with the map, and it will pull all of the phone numbers and email addresses for all of those people if they're on the, and scrub it for DNC for you. So
let me also let me offer you one piece as well here, which is that we have a program called EBF, which is called event-based farming. And our EBF program at Real Estate Experts is where we send out 300 just listed, 300 just sold, and 300 I have a buyer letters to the surrounding neighborhood. What we know is, because we've been doing it for a long time, we know that for every 3 listings an agent takes that they do this with, they should garner 1 more listing. But what's crazy is that when you add door knocking or circle prospecting into the mix, it goes down to every 2 listings you take a listing. Almost a 50% conversion when you add in door knocking or circle prospecting into the mix of the postcards that you may already be dropping. It's an unbelievable conversion rate that gives you the thing that we all want more than anything, which is listings.
Yeah. And then lastly, in the preparation piece is to think about, have a piece of value to give them. You know, for our neighborhood preview, that's going to be the refreshments and the collaboration time that they can come and connect with their neighbors and see this new listing. If it's a buyer coming through, we're going to talk more about exactly what you want to give or offer to buyers to get their attention and add value. Any questions on the preparation phase? Because this is interactive, right, guys? This is not just a one-way thing. If you have a question or comment or some great idea that you're doing that complements what we've talked about, certainly chime in.
I have a question.
Yeah, David.
Do we have any templates for the buyer letters that get mailed out by any chance?
We certainly do. You can connect with our marketing team, but we do. It's a very simple message. Ultimately, I have a buyer letter that goes out after. If there were multiple offers, we typically put the exact stats in there. Hey, your neighbor's home sold with multiple offers. We've received 5 offers. We had 4 buyers that didn't get the house. And if you're remotely considering selling, please give us a call, because these people are desperate to live in the neighborhood, and we could potentially arrange a convenient sale that would include not having to get on the market, do open houses and all of that. Right. So we're offering convenience and the idea that we have a buyer in there. So that's all part of the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Great question.
Kelly Ray's asking, do we have a lender host with you? I do find, I think there's several different schools of thought with that. Certainly a lender is helpful for additional lead capture when open houses get really, really busy. I find, and if you have, one thing I want to mention though, is you do want to have a lender who's competitive on interest rates. Not everybody is in this current climate. I held an open house open in Sunnyvale at about the $2.5 million price point. And the lender that was arranged to come, they weren't competitive on pricing, and they printed on a rate sheet for that particular house. It was like a payment of $16,000 a month. The buyer came and saw the rate sheet and said, whoa, I'm out of here. But I knew, because the lender had been there the day before, had a 5-year ARM that was interest only, that had a payment for $11,000 a month. So I chased the guy out the door. I said, hey, was it the payment that scared you away? He said, yeah. And I said, well, here, take a look at this. You can get get into this house for $11,000 a month. I said, oh, great. So be sure that whoever you bring, if you do bring a lender, that they are competitive on rates.
I want to dive into something that I believe actually adds a lot of value, and it's the marketing aspect of this. And most of this is preparation wise. I just want you to know the next group of slides are going to go through what we at Real Estate Experts provide, but use what we provide as the template for what you should be providing if you aren't doing this currently. Because we've systematized the process to know that this group of marketing is the best formulation of all of these items in one place to create conversion for you. And so it's going to be a little overwhelming. I apologize. But on the left-hand side, we have social media posts. In the middle, we create reels for all of our open houses. We can create door knockers for all of our open houses. And then we have multiple different show sheets that will be put at your open house. whether it be Brett, you're invited to do the cocktails or bagels or whatever it is, or just an open house for the actual department itself. Not only that, but we also have email templates that will go out when you have an open house to your database. So make sure that you're doing not just one social post that talks about it. Make sure you're leveraging all of these opportunities when it comes to just prepping before your open house. Make sure you have signs out, signs that have your name, your brand, and make sure you're putting out as many as you can. The standard that we see is a minimum of like 12 signs to really drive traffic. And do me a favor, don't be the agent that puts 4 signs on one corner. It's a waste of your signs. Please, for the love of God, we get it. There's one sign that posts that tells you where we're going. Take those other 3 and put them on 3 other corners so we can triple or quadruple the number of people that actually are going to see it.
I think the thing to remember here, guys and gals, as you're looking at signage, is that, look, everybody's got an iPhone, an Android, and it's got a mapping function on it, right? People will know how to get to the house. Your open house signs are really your branding opportunity in the neighborhood. So for that reason, when we talk about the schedule of starting the day early and taking in your signs late, keep them out there, get them out there earlier in the morning and leave them out there later in the evening, because your name and your brand is what gets out there, and that's what we want to see. And that's why we want to have the number of signs, not because people don't know how to get to the house, right?
This is your business card. How many of you have, when was the last time anybody handed out a business card? They're so rare. This is your business card on steroids, because you're getting hundreds and hundreds of people driving by these things. Of course, we also want to make sure that you have, we do something at Real Estate Experts called the annual equity review. This is one of those pieces of value that we want to make sure we give to the people who come through the open house. This is specifically for sellers. We want the sellers to understand that in the neighborhood that they're in, the average person has X amount of equity in their home. And so we create email templates, social media posts, we have top renovation ideas, we create videos that agents can then text out or send via email. And then we do this amazing thing with this QR code over here on the corner that is a sign-in request. It talks about the average number of, the average amount of equity. We also want to make sure we have a script for actually how it works. If you don't know, if you're selling a product and you don't know how to sell it with a script, then we're not really selling the product. We're sort of bumbling through. We have to get the marbles out of our mouth so that we can perfect the communication style in each of these. And so for each of these things that we create scripts and dialogues for each of those that we give to our agents. You should make sure you have a script as well. The last piece is, it might not be the last piece, but there's also a digital aspect to it. We want to make sure that we've got email templates that are going out to your sphere. They need to know that you're hosting open houses. We want email templates to go out to your potential buyers so that they can see that you're busy. We want to make sure we're running some form or fashion of an online ad. So up here in the corner, you have PPC ads from Facebook. PPC is pay-per-click. These are lead generation tools. And then of course, we want to create a custom website that your seller or the buyers can actually go to if they want to learn more about the property that isn't Zillow or Redfin, which is trying to send them to 10 other places and see 10 other properties. These are the last piece. There's 2 more pieces of the puzzle. Is the actual show sheets that you use, depending on the property, matter. And so if you're showing a $2.5 million property, $3 million property, you better show up differently than with one little flimsy piece of paper that's your show sheet. Please don't show up with an MLS printed show sheet. Show that you put some energy and effort into it. These are 4 examples that we create. I'm sure your brokerage or your marketing department will create something beautiful for you. Make sure that you are elevating the standard at which people are this is a take home. They're going to take, this is your business card that you take with you. And it's your calling card when the time comes for them to actually list or buy. And then the last piece of this puzzle, this is probably one of the most powerful tools that we didn't even know was that powerful until we did it on accident, which is, these are what we call lifestyle boards. And so we have our marketing team for open houses actually create lifestyle boards for the properties themselves. So you see the property, there you go.
Yeah, and Joey, I'll show you just so you guys can get an idea what size these are. These are like poster boards that you can put on. And the one we're looking at is right kind of in the center. The one I'm holding in my hands, if you look and see, is actually the one right in the center there. And so this is something that we didn't actually figure out would be such a great thing for sellers. We originally created these for buyers, because if you look at that picture in the center of the room that says from existing living room, that's a photo of the actual house, okay? And we used a special program in Google Images that scans the internet and finds homes pictures with similar aspect ratios. Then to generate an image that looks like that exact living room, but remodeled. We also got an estimate from our contractor because we knew the buyers were going to ask, this is a great house, but man, what's it going to cost me to remodel this thing? We got an estimate for the kitchen and the 2 bathrooms and the living room. And then we used, what do you call them, Joey? The option boards, or I forget what you called it.
Lifestyle boards.
Lifestyle boards. So, but I can't tell you, we put this up in the kitchen, right? On an easel. And we had so many of the neighbors going, oh my God, like that's what the remodel would look like on this. And that's all that it costs. So it created so much conversation with the neighbors. And again, helped us stand out like no other. Nobody else was doing that. And so this is a differentiator because I can tell you from personal experience, anyone who's lived in their home for more than 10 to 15 years, 2/3 to 3/4 of those people are at least contemplating doing some remodeling. And a big reason why they come to open houses is to get ideas for remodeling. So if you can be the go-to expert, right, that not only, shows, wow, like this is what it looks like when I can take my old, place and make it look beautiful. And he's got the contracts, he or she has the contacts for the contractors to help me with something like that. You stand out in their minds. Just another way to differentiate when you're at the actual open house.
It's the same principle as people wanting to know what it's like to work with you before they work with you. They want to know what it would be like to live in this house before they buy the house. They want to see what the future can look like. And these lifestyle boards not only talk about renovations, but they also talk about the neighborhood. And we actually leverage door knocking opportunities to garner information about what it's like to live in that neighborhood, and then take that information and say, here's what your neighbors had to say about living in the neighborhood. You can see down here, this is a quote from the Anderson family about what it's like to live in the neighborhood and why it's so popular and so wonderful. This creates that relational aspect without you having to do the work for it.
I want to go back to that really quick, Joey. That one right in the center bottom there, guys and gals, you see what we love. This is something that unique that we've done that, as far as I know, I don't know anybody else is doing it. We have the sellers write a love letter to the buyers. We know that buyer letters have now become illegal or whatever because of fair housing against potential discrimination, but there's nothing saying that the seller can't write a letter to the buyer. And get this, we've gotten more than 6 figures. We've gotten more than $100,000 on an offer price for a property because of a love letter. And the reason I know that is because we put this love letter, we frame it, and we put it in the kitchen where it's prominently displayed. And some of them are longer than others. The one there you see from the Anderson family is rather short. But we had one that was, probably 3 paragraphs, and it talked about how they like going out in the backyard and drinking their tea by the fountain and watching the birds when the sun rises. I had an agent call me, and she's like, what was on that letter? Because I walked out the front door of this house, and my client was like, she was almost tearing up. She's like, I have to have this house. And I can tell you, when it came to offer date, that buyer, we had 24 offers on the property. Her offer price was $115,000 more than every other buyer. And that was the one who got emotionally engaged because of that love letter. So it's basic principle, right? That people buy on emotion and then they justify with logic. Heart chooses and the mind justifies. So these are just little things, guys, again, to think about how you can show up like no other at an open house and show up for sellers and show up for buyers in a way that's different and better through elevating your marketing.
Tony, you have a question?
Yeah, I got a question on those. How many of those on that subject property you did? How many of these lifestyle boards did you have? Did you just do one in the kitchen? Did you have one on the dining room table? Like what's good? What's too much?
I did 3 for that house. Along you see on the top row there. Actually, there was 4 that were generated. 4. The existing kitchen, existing living room, and existing bathroom. And again, we really kind of created the before and after before we even remodeled the property. And it creates such a conversation starter, especially for the neighbors. That's, I forget what Kinko's charges to print those, but I think they're, $25 on the foam core or something. But like the amount of leads we got from it was way, way, way worth it.
And Tony, that 4th one actually broke down each of these 3 in the cost. So that 4th one actually showed renovation costs for the bathroom, renovation costs for the kitchen and the living room in one prominent slide so that people could see, sort of connect those 2 dots.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any questions or comments or anything that you want to ask before we move on to the next piece, which is hosting?
Awesome. Moving
All right,
on.
let's keep going. Let's talk about the big boy, which is actually being in the actual home and hosting it. Don't just open the door. We're not holding open, we're hosting an open house. It is a very big distinction between holding a house open and hosting an open house. When you have guests coming over to your house and you are hosting them in your home, you are the most kind, generous, sweet, loving. Can I get you a drink? Can I help you do this? Do you have a plate? Did you eat enough? But when we hold a house open, we're just letting the door fly open and hoping for the best. So let's go through what we think are the 5 key tactics here. The first one is have a damn script. If you don't have something specific that you can say, that you can measure the results of its effectiveness, then you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that it sticks. We need to know what are the words that are going to come out of your mouth that actually are going to create opportunity for you to create conversion for those buyers and those sellers. The second piece is filter and focus. This is about making sure that when somebody walks through the door, you've got that buyer avatar in mind. You are filtering and focusing is this the right opportunity for this buyer, and where are they in their process? You need to have the right questions to ask in that script that allows you to filter that buyer down or that seller down into where they need to be. Because some people are ready to write, some people hate the house, some people are looky-loos. You need that filter and focus to make that happen. And then the compelling offer side of things. Brett, can you talk about the compelling offer? Because this is one of your secret sauces.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I think we're going to get into that, Joey, in one of the upcoming slides. But ultimately here, you want to be able to capture the buyer's attention when they come through by offering them something unique and different that no other agent at other open houses is offering them. Okay. So that's one of the things. And then if we move on to the next one, have alternate properties ready. Again, this is the suggestive selling that we talked about in the example between Target and Nordstrom. Those sales reps are required to have 4 additional pairs of shoes, or 3 additional pairs of shoes, ready when they go out to serve a client on the floor. You want to have at least 3 additional options that you can show them. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. But ultimately, when you do that, like, hey, have you seen the one over at 123 Main Street? How about the one at 422 Elm? That one is actually similar. It's got a different, little bit bigger backyard, right? And when you have that level of conversation with someone, you're demonstrating your expertise. You're giving them the experience of what it would be like to work with you before actually working with you.
No doubt about it. So let's dive into some of these. Here's our script. If you're sitting there at home, take a screenshot. If you already are real estate experts, it's in your Google Drive. But here's our agent open house script for the simplest conversion. It takes all of the aspects that we just talked about. It's got great questions. It helps you filter and focus. It also allows you to demonstrate expertise, because it's not just about what we're doing right now. It's about creating an opportunity to figure out if we need to move on to the next one. So I'm going to keep this script on here for about 10 more seconds. Take a screenshot if you need to. We will also share these slides with you at the end. We have all your email addresses. We'll share them out with you, so you'll have all of our scripts in one place. But this is our open house script, if for buyers specifically.
Yeah, well, I think Joey, the main thing that we're talking about there is off markets. And so I think there's a thing we talk about in selection that's a little further down the track here. But yeah, you can take a screenshot of that. But let's move on, because I think we're going to talk about how this principle works.
We actually have a separate script for off markets as well. So if someone's really not interested in that property, one of these pieces of value that we can demonstrate is right here with our off market. We have a list of real estate experts that's got, 500 or 600 off market opportunities that we can leverage. I'm sure your brokerage that you are at has off market opportunities that you can leverage for that.
We'll get more into that in just a couple slides.
Yeah. So let's talk about those 4 opportunities to focus on. When I say opportunities, what I mean is deals, 4 deals that you can actually generate from this. When we talk about 4Xing, these are the 4 opportunities that you need to be looking for. The first is someone who is ready to write. that first person who's hot off the shelves, they like the house, they're ready to go, they're pre-approved. You're looking for as many of these buyers as you can possibly get who are serious and ready to go. The second opportunity is the person who's ready to tour. So someone who maybe doesn't like this open house, doesn't like this property, but knows that they want to be in the neighborhood, they've identified it, and you can be that person who demonstrates value that you've got opportunities for them to go see. And then number three and number four.
Yeah. Number two, Joey, and that's exactly where we're talking about the suggestive selling, having those 3 or 4 alternate properties that if this one wasn't the match, might be their next best alternative.
Absolutely. And number 3 and number 4 are the same. We want, or not the same, I'm sorry. We want to a nurture buyer, somebody that we can keep dripping on a little bit, maybe reaching out every so often to make sure that they're being taken care of, that they're not an orphan client. And then those nurture sellers. There are sellers who walk through your open house. They haven't identified themselves yet. They like to be a little secretive. They like to audition you a little bit. We're looking to nurture those seller opportunities as well. Because what we know is when we door knock those open houses, those sellers, the potential sellers, come into the open house. And even if they're not selling right now, or even in the next year, your opportunity to win favor and relationship with them is happening right now. And so we want to make sure that we create the ideal environment for them to see what it would be like to work with you. Fred, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the process, right, to identify what these 4 opportunities are starts right when the door opens, right? So my process when someone comes through the open door, I actually come up to them, I greet them, I stick my hand out and I say, "Hi, my name is Brett, and you are," and I say, "And you are," because if you just say your name, they may or may not tell you what their name is. But I find if you put your hand out, you say, "Hey, I'm Brett, and you are," they will tell you what their name is. But then I ask them, "Hey, great, are you guys from the neighborhood?" And if they are from the neighborhood, they'll indicate or say, "Oh, great, where in the neighborhood?" Because I want to know, are they literally like a neighbor that's just a couple doors down, i.e. probably a likely potential future seller, or are they a neighbor from 2 miles away and they're looking to maybe move up? So again, I'm trying to figure out, where are these people? Are they 1, 2, 3, or 4? And by asking that question, especially if the open house is busy, right? By asking that question, you know who to focus your attention on, because you're going to prioritize number 1 and number 2 if you do get really busy over your 3s and 4s. But 3s and 4s are your long tail business where we can really create a lot more long-term opportunity from this open house. But in order to do so, it's important to have something compelling to offer them. So Joey, you want to move on to our next topic, and that is have a compelling offer, right? A lead magnet, so to speak. And for buyers, let me ask you guys, and I'm asking for participation here. I know we're 45 minutes in. Some of you guys might be like, "Hey, I'm ready for a coffee or a Red Bull," but your participation here, type in the chat. What do you think is the number 1 thing that every buyer wants? Number 1 thing that every buyer wants. The best deal. Actually, deal is way up there, Dimitri. A deal, a good deal, off market, good property, off markets. Excellent. So here's the reality. When consumers are surveyed in the buyer value hierarchy, the number 1 thing that buyers want is selection. They want access to more properties, especially in a low inventory market like we have. For those of you who said deal, actually in the buyer value hierarchy, number 2 is a deal. They want to get a good deal. And so for us, the off-market properties is that opportunity. So Joey, if you want to show that next slide, it's our off-market property list. And if you don't have something like this, you're going to want to cultivate or create something like this. We have how we articulate the off-market properties is a couple slides previous in the script, so you can get those scripts when you get the slides at the end of this presentation. But the off-market properties, in fact, Joey, let me see here. I'm going to share screen. This is kind of what an off-market property flyer we have that goes up on like the kitchen table or the kitchen counter. And the conversation is simply this: the buyer's gone through the house, right? And they have, I ask them, "Hey, what'd you think of the house?" And 9 out of 10 times it's not for them. Great, cool. How long have you guys been looking? "Oh, we've been looking for 3, 4, 5 months. Okay, great. Have you written any offers on any properties?" I want to ask these questions and find out, like, where are they in their home search? And are you looking at any off-market properties, Joey? Like, Joey, if I was role playing this with you, I'd ask you, Joey, are you looking at any off-market properties? What would you say?
I don't think so. I don't even know where to find them.
Yeah. Well, Joey, these are properties. Yeah, you won't find them on Zillow or Redfin. These are typically properties that are from builders, investors, coming soon properties of our own and other top agents. But the advantage an off-market property might offer you, Joey, is one, more selection. And number two, potentially a better deal, because the market is very hot and competitive. And sometimes if you can buy a property off market, you can get that property without getting into a bidding war. We've cultivated a list. I think it's actually over 400 homes now. And I think there's like 800 homes on the market. So this is like an additional 50% inventory. Joey, if I can take a look at that list, just curiously, if you're curious to see if we might have something that might be a match for you, would that be helpful?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, go ahead and write your name down here. I can get back to you after the open house. Unfortunately, I can't send you that list, so I'm going to need to basically, we can get on the phone together, get on Zoom, and I can walk you through this list and see if we have something on there that would be a match for you. Would that be good?
That'd be great. Yeah.
Great. So that particular script in and of itself, can double or triple the amount of leads that you get from an open house. But here's the thing. You want to make sure that you can deliver on that value proposition. If you've got 3 or 4 off-market properties, again, we want to give people the experience of what it's like to work with you before they work with you. You want to be able to demonstrate some real value. And so having a nice big list of properties that have some options will do that for you. The
And
second
just
thing,
I know Brett said this, but we give you that script right here. So that script is available for you here on these slides. So if you didn't get a screenshot of it, we'll make sure to send you the slides.
the next thing that you're going to want to talk about is what we had previously discussed. Joe, you want to move on to the next one there, and that is additional alternate properties, right? Like the suggestive selling talked about. When you're creating a list of alternate properties, you want to have these ready at your open house. And there's going to be, Joe, if you go to the next one, there's 3 types of alternate properties that you're going to want to point out to potential buyers. Okay. The first one is you're going to want to have a list of the other houses that are open today, right? That might be a match. Because they might be looking on Zillow or Redfin, and they might not have all the open houses there. I often find like 30%, 40% of the time, I'm suggesting other homes that are open that they didn't know about, right? So there I am again, demonstrating value and expertise. The second list you're going to want to pull is active listings that don't require an appointment. Like could be vacant properties that are staged. And then the third list would be active properties by appointment. And I tell you why number 2 and number 3 are important, because, and I'm going to do a screen share here, Joey. So for example, this is typically what I would have this printed out, and I would also have this open on my laptop when I'm there at the open house. And I'm going to say, great, so this is my open house here. We're at Palm Haven. There's the one here on Pine that is a little bit smaller, but it's got a beautiful backyard, and it's one of these classic Willow Glen. The pictures aren't. There we go. This is one of the classic Willow Glen charmers. The house is going to be, it's a vintage home like this one, but it has been remodeled top to bottom. Right, I'm going to walk them through those top 3 or 4 properties, and the first list that I like to go to is the ones that, Joey, if you can go back to your slide, is the ones that are go direct. And here is the setup. And I'm going to tell you how I have created an opportunity for myself to actually leave an open house with 3 to 4 buyers that I am touring with on a group tour. I know that sounds crazy, but this is what happened. And I sold the property on, I think it's 1605 Pine Avenue. It was $2.5 million. I sold it by basically taking 4 buyers from my open house, all in one giant caravan, to go around and see 3 houses. Basically, I walk them through just like I showed you. There are some additional properties, and I said, these are the ones that are that are either vacant and go direct, or I don't need to schedule an appointment. And my narrative was with them, you know, the one that I showed you at 1204 Pine, that one I have actually communicated with the seller, and I have actually permission. It's not an open house today, but I do have permission from the seller to go show that. If you like, I finish here at 4. I can meet you at that property at 4:30, and I can show you that house. In fact, there's 2 others that I suggest. And again, these are the additional active that are go direct. And I ended up taking 4 families on a caravan. I showed them 3 properties, and one of the buyers was interested in the one on Pine, and we wrote an offer for $2.5 million. So when we talk about leveraging, right, adding value, showing up like no one else, this is exactly what we're talking about. And that third category would be active, but by appointment only. So those may or may not be able to add to your tour if you can do a caravan. But Joey, I think if the next slide, we talk a little bit about the caravan, or maybe it's just an image. So there's the off-market property list and the buyer caravan. So that's probably like the best thing that you can do to maximize the opportunity for your open house. But if you think strategically, it's certainly possible. And it really comes from this principle of what we started with, you know, demonstrate your expertise and add massive value. So thoughts or questions on any of these strategies or tactics, guys? Or doubts?
I want to add one thing there for you, Brett, on this third one, which might be seemingly the most difficult, this active by appointment. It's a great script for you to tell them, hey, listen, I actually am really great friends with the agent who's listing that property. Let me shoot him a text right now and see if I can get us in tonight at around 4:30. Would that work for you? That way we're demonstrating our relationships, and we're still driving opportunity, even with the most difficult homes to get into.
Because here's the thing, you know, a lot of us who previously, if you've done open houses and maybe you've got a lead capture form and you've got something that, oh, the seller has requested you sign in. And that's how you're capturing people's names and numbers. And you wonder why, you know, you tried calling them Monday and they don't know who you are, or they're not really interested in taking your call because you haven't really earned the right. You haven't demonstrated value. But if you come from this place of just adding massive value, think about this, right? They're out on the weekend shopping for a house because they want to buy a house, right? But most of us as agents, we think, okay, we're going to get their contact information and we're going to call them Monday. But this buyer caravan actually works because they're in the shopping mode. You know, they are that person who's on the Nordstrom sales floor trying on one shoe and they want to leave with a pair of shoes. And we're just providing a clear path of opportunity for them, being more thoughtful, more creative, more preemptive, right? To get in front of them and get ahead of them and really provide them options that help them get to where they want to go, which is to buy a house. So
absolutely. Jonathan asked a great question in the chat, which is, what are your sources besides investors and builders for off markets? Truth is, Jonathan, we have a virtual assistant who scrubs multiple different sources for off markets and then shoots all of the off market or coming soon opportunities to our agents at the end of every single day. Actually, if you're looking for off markets, the best emails you can get. If you're not, it's like 12 emails a day of new properties. So that's how we're doing it. We're leveraging a third party to make that happen.
Yeah, we have a dedicated person we hire. All they do full time is they're going to Zillow coming soon, and they're going to Top Agent Network, and they're scraping and pulling all these together. And then we have agents in our company who do a lot of prospecting. They might circle dial and they talk to somebody who says, you know, we're not ready to sell right now, but if we did get a good offer from somebody, we might consider it. We add those people to the list as well. So that's how we're able to get that list up to as big as it is at like 400 currently.
And Joey, Matt also asked a great question.
Okay.
Real quick, he said, how do you handle getting buyers to sign in? QR code, iPad? We have an iPad app or an iPhone app that we use, and I've always found it to be the most powerful. I use my cell phone. I don't use an iPad. But what I do is I actually hand someone my personal cell phone before asking them to sign in. And while I'm handing them my personal cell phone, I say, go ahead and sign in for me. And then they have my phone in their hand. There's just this little aspect of guilt that they have to feel like they need to now do it. Handing the phone back to me would be rude. And most people don't want to be rude. So they sign in, and that's how I get their information. And then the app that we use actually ties into our CRM.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do it, right? The paper-based form is your most simple thing. QR codes are good, but some people, you know, they might feel a little resistant because they think that you might be capturing their information. So it all depends. You got to do what works for you and what you feel comfortable with. Obviously, if you have something that ports the leads right into your CRM, that's best. But that topic, Joey, of capturing the lead, now what do we do with it? Kind of leads into our closing topic.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about follow-up. So let's dive into this, because this is the piece of the puzzle that, if I'm being really honest with you, if we're being honest with ourselves, it's usually the thing that we are the weakest at, that agents have the weakest sort of muscle memory in, because we systematize, we know what it takes to go and get the open house set up. Maybe we were good at hosting open houses. We feel like we're cordial. We have great conversations, but the follow-up side of things is tough. And so there's three aspects to this. We want you to make your follow-up calls right after the open house, whether it be the hour after or that night. We know that the longer you wait to make those calls, the less important and valuable you and that relationship is to whoever it is you're talking to. We want to get there quick. And so much so, when we say calls, what I really mean is communication. So, like, for instance, we've got an agent on here named Audrey, who's one of the top teams at our brokerage. She does an amazing job of recording a video of herself inside the open house so that there's a memorable moment in there. And she texts that video out to anyone who came to the open house, just saying, hey, it's me, Audrey. We met earlier today from 1 to 4 at my open house at 123 Main Street. Do you remember that crazy office right above here? Like, that was just absolutely nuts, wasn't it? Anyway, it was great to meet you. I'd love to have a conversation with you if you're interested in buying this property. And if not, I have a list of 400 off-market properties that I'd love to share with you. I think there's probably something on there for you. That version of follow-up is significantly more impressive and effective than the email that comes after saying, hey, just following up, we met at the open house 2 days later. The second piece is confirm. Please.
Yeah, let's talk about when to follow up. And I think that leads kind of into your next.
Yeah. So here's the question. When do you actually do the follow-up from your open houses? Like, realistically, go in the chat. Tell me, when do you have it booked off to do your follow-up? Or if you don't have it booked off in your calendar, when do you actually do it typically? Go in the chat and tell me when. Audrey, right after they leave. The night of the open house. Tony, nice. Before I leave for the day from the open house. Neat, nice.
We got a bunch of people from our group in here chiming in.
We do.
That night.
Awesome. Jonathan, nice. Here's the honest to God truth. And this might scare you a little bit. So for those of you who are doing it the same day, 90% of people do not follow up the same day. 90% of agents out there, 9 out of 10 agents have no follow-up the same day. You will be forgotten, completely and utterly forgotten. We want to make sure you follow up ideally within the hour after the open house. But if not, then you need to do it that same night to make sure that we lock in that relationship that you just tried to build. Do you want to add anything, Brett?
Yeah, no. To Joey's point, a video text is the most impactful communication you can do, because people will remember your face. They may remember your voice if you call them, but they for sure will remember your face. And once it goes beyond 24 hours, they went to 4 or 5 open houses that day. You're just another Joe or Jane. They're like, who are you? When you try to call on Monday, and you wonder why they won't take your call. So video is the most powerful medium to use for the follow-up.
I call it the Toll Brothers effect. It's one of my favorite things that Toll Brothers does. So if you've ever been inside of a Toll Brothers home, they typically have, in each and every house, they do one thing inside that house that is weird. Like, in the middle of the living room, there's a glass wine case that didn't exist. Or they do some crazy tile on the walls in the master bed. They do something nuts. And the reason why they do that is because they want you to remember the specific house. And they know that if they attach it to something specific in the home, it'll be easier for you to remember, oh, remember that house with I know we saw like 12 houses today, but do you remember the house with the wine thing in the middle of the living room? It's easier for them to connect. That's why we want to send those video text messages, because it's easier to make that connection if they can remember you in that moment. You create a little bit of a differentiating factor. And I want to remind you when this happens. So we want to do it directly after the open house. Like, schedule yourself, when we talk about the buyer caravan and all that you got going on, give yourself a little bit of wiggle room after the open house to sit in your car or at the open house and do your follow-up, so that then you earn the right to just go and actually do the buyer caravan that you just did, and then go sell a $2.5 million property to somebody. And this is our after the open house script. So again, we're sharing everything with you. I want you to see what the script is. If you want, take a second, screenshot it. And of course, we'll email you everything. So you don't have to worry about it if you don't want to. This is for the buyer. And also we have the script down here for if they are a potential seller after the open house. That's basically it.
Yeah,
those are our three. Go ahead, bro.
Those are no, I was going to say questions or comments. Was the information that was shared here? Our goal to deliver the time, if you took the time and we spent the time, was that you walk away with at least 1 or 2 ideas that you feel will help you get more business from the open house. So just type in the chat or let us know, or come off of mute if you found what we shared here something valuable for you.
Shannon said, great nuggets of wisdom, gentlemen. Thanks. Shannon, thank you. And by the way, feel free to unmute yourself and share some. Yeah, there you go, Don. Go ahead.
So here's the thing that I learned, from my mentor Tony Robbins, was I like this idea is that wealth exists in the gap between ideas and their implementation. Wealth exists in the gap between ideas and their implementation. So type in the chat 1 idea from today's session that you're committed to implementing. Whether you work with us or not, we want to know, like, what are you committed to doing to make this time that you invested today make a difference in your business? So it's 1 idea that you learned. Type it in the chat. Jose said preparation.
Jose said preparation.
Kelly's mega open house. Love the poster boards. Jim Guido, awesome. The video right after, preparation. Fantastic. Well, if you've gotten value out of today, we do host a mastermind once a month. If you scan that QR code, we can have you join our monthly mastermind where we're going to share this and better ideas every month. Anything else you want to say in closing, Joey?
Yeah, so next month, there's 2 things. Next month, we're going to be focusing on listings. And the month after that, we'll focus on buyers. So if you feel like you'd like to have an expert level opportunity and education series on how to make your listings even better, then scan that QR code. It's going to open up my email. Just shoot me an email and in the subject line say monthly masterminds, or join our monthly masterminds, or sign me up, Papa, or something crazy like that. Just email me.
Great. All right.
And then the last piece of the puzzle is if you got value out of this and you feel like you're ready to take whatever it is you're doing to the next level, feel free. I'm available. Schedule a 30-minute strategy call with me if you want to get a little bit more specific with your business. If you want to talk about what the opportunities look like, go here, click on this 30-minute strategy session. This QR code will lead you right to my Calendly, and we can have a conversation 1-to-1 versus 1-to-many. I'd love to help you all individually. And that's it for us today. I really appreciate you all taking the time with us. Hope you have a beautiful weekend. Go do some kick-ass open houses, and we'll see you soon.